You're listening to If Only I Were Wiser podcast, where Raina Wilson brings together wisdom and raw life stories to provide encouragement and truth. So many times it's easy to become discouraged in your own pursuit of health because your story or circumstances look drastically different from your favorite influencer or even the expectations you had for yourself. If that is you, welcome! This space is for you to learn, breathe, and maybe just listen and see what wellness could look like for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast. On today's episode, I can't wait to introduce to you the CEO of probably my favorite holistic healing brand, as well as a sweet friend, Brit Richards of Smear. Brit is a wife, mother of two, and serves as the CEO of Smear, her pioneering holistic skincare company. With decades of experience in the beauty industry and a passion for clean living, she created the solution to toxic skincare that serves the entire family. Hello, Britt. Welcome to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast.
Good morning. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yes, I want to just dive straight in to all things about you.
Okay.
I know life has looked really sweet for you guys, just being able to follow your story over the past year. So, what does your family look like? What is a day-to-day kind of a day in the life of Britt?
Okay. So I'm really fortunate because my husband and I get to work together and run our company. We have two little babies. We just had a miracle baby this past year. So we have a 5-year-old and a 7-month-old. So starting all over again has been really interesting and super sweet at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
To watch our son become a big brother and just really take on that role and love it so well. And it's the first time my husband and I are both home at the same time running our company. So we're being able to be present in a new way while also navigating how to run a business and be really intentional in our family. So
Yeah, super sweet, but super hard. I've learned that in motherhood that it's like every new season is a fun season, but the hard just changes, you know?
always different, same hard, but different hard at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. So, how did you guys get to Smear? And Smear is, you guys can just open with, what is Smear?
Okay. So Smear is a holistic, non-toxic tallow-based skincare company that's meant to simplify skincare for your entire family. Um, a little background about how I found my way into a skincare company is kind of crazy. So I have been in the beauty industry for well over a decade. I graduated with my cosmetology license at a bright, spry 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I have always kind of been in this space, but I never really found my place in all of it. So years and years go by. I'm managing a major beauty retailer that you would probably know if I said the name, but I won't.
Sure.
And it was a very interesting time because I started to become more knowledgeable about non-toxic ingredients, holistic ingredients, clean ingredients, greenwashing, and
Mm.
organic washing is a new one. And
Yeah.
so I kind of came into all of that and was confused. I was watching products be marketed by different types like oily skin, dry skin, in between, and it was all the same
Yeah.
this was all the same ingredients, just repackaged, and it made me question a lot of things. So, fast forward, I end up having my son. I get horrific cystic acne for the first time in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and I am privy to all the most expensive products on the market, so I'm putting them all on my
Yeah.
skin, and they all have warning labels on them. Don't get near your eyes. If it gets near your eyes, call poison control, flush them
Yeah.
out. And I'm cuddling my cute, precious newborn boy. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is on my face and I'm putting it on his skin. His skin is perfect. Mine is a mess. So what's happening here? So I
Yeah.
started to get really simple, Googling ingredients. I'm like, trying to figure out the functionality of product ingredients. I come upon tallow, and then ensues a 5-year journey of the time from I first learned about tallow till we have a business. So we how we came into our business was 2019. My husband and I were both in school and didn't have two sticks to rub together. It was the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of COVID and the world
Yeah.
completely shut down. And I actually had a dream about 2 months before that I was going to start a business. And at the time, I was an artist. I was painting, so I was very, very confused. I was like, "I've got a business. What are we talking about?" And I have a dream one night. I see my friend's skin, who we had been praying for many months, who had really bad eczema. And I heard God audibly say to me as I sit up from the dream, and He says, "I want you to start a tallow skincare company." And I'm thinking, what are you talking about?
What?
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm not a chemist. I sell skincare products. I know a little bit about holistic living. I have no idea how to start a company, let alone a skincare company. And so I just bit off the next thing I could chew. So the next morning I wake up, like I said, we didn't have any money. My dad calls me and says, "I want to send you a gift card that I got in the mail." He gives me a
Mm-hmm.
gift card, and it was a $50 gift card, and with $25, I bought the little bit of ingredients that I could afford, and the other 25 I bought diapers with. And I told my husband, I was like, "I just need you to go with me on this thing." And
Yeah.
he was ready to roll, so we did it. I sat down and started to try to decipher how much of one ingredient I wanted to mix together to make a beneficial product. I whip it up. I give it to my friend. My friend gets completely healed. And then 2 weeks later, the world shuts down during COVID and my husband loses his job. And so I think, what can I do to try
Mm.
to help my family? And so I posted the pictures of my friend's healing testimony on my Instagram and said, if anybody else would want some of this product, I would be happy to make it for you. And overnight, Smear was born.
Dang. That is absolutely wild.
Mhm.
How unique and just powerful. Ugh. What was that like to walk through COVID and then seeing the Lord's provision literally in each of those steps?
Oh my gosh, I don't think if God had given me a picture of what life would look like many years later versus when we first started Smear, I would have been like, absolutely not, I'm out. It's too big of a
Yeah.
responsibility. It's scary. There's so many people involved. People are sending me pictures of their kids with their scalps bleeding, skin conditions
Mhm.
that the doctors can't heal, their medical mysteries, and asking me for help. And I would have been like, I can't,
Yeah.
I'm not qualified for this. So it was just a little bit at a time, and, at the time, it was just like, "Okay, thank you, God, we have just enough money to pay our rent. Okay, we have just enough money to buy more jars. We have just enough money to buy some labels and try to label this thing," and it was always
Yeah.
just the next step, so I didn't really see it coming, and I think, to be honest, I was always waiting for the shoe to drop and for it to all go away. Because I
Mhm.
am a serial entrepreneur. I've always wanted to own my own company, and I could tell you all the stories about wire wrapping jewelry and selling paintings and making
Yeah.
candles and doing calligraphy, and I've always just had so many ideas I wanted to dive into, and, so when Smear really took off, I think it took me by surprise as much as it took everyone else by surprise. I wasn't expecting it, but I was so grateful to find myself in that place.
Mhm. Was there ever this moment that you were like, "This is not real?" You know, like, as this is unfolding, you're like, "God, this is a, like, funny joke." Like,
Oh,
waiting for the shoe to drop and just thinking like, "How did we get here?"
today. To this day, I'm like, "Are you sure? You us? Like, are you sure you want it to be us?" I don't know, and I think something I have said since the beginning, and especially since Smear started to become more popular among people, people are coming up to me saying that they recognize me in public, which is the weirdest feeling of all time. Um, and I think I said a long time ago, and I mean it with my whole heart to this day, that if I ever forget how big of a blessing this has become and how little role I play in it, Lord, you need to like do a big heart shift in me. So I think always staying surprised and confused about how we
Mm.
got to this place and why God trusted us, it keeps us really grounded in the reason that we started this business in the beginning. It was always to help people. It was always to provide for people an option to protect their families and help their families heal and have sustained wellness without being confused in this world full of options out there. We wanted it to be
Yeah.
simple, and we also wanted to utilize that opportunity to be together more as a family and do this as a family together. So, as long as we stay focused on those things and that God has given us all of this, I think that the heartbeat of it will always maintain the same.
Britt, that is so convicting. Just hearing that heart posture is just like so refreshing because again, like regardless of our circumstances, we're supposed to be joyful and it's not always easy to do so. And I'm sure that you can speak to that because I've heard a little bit about your story, but I would love just to hear like, did your family story, your own health journey, and everything that you guys have walked through, did that play a role in like the creation of Smearin as you pursue this, or has it kind of been like railroad tracks? Like you walked with the Lord in step of like how each of these has unfolded for your family.
Yeah, I think it was a little of both, a little bit of like projection for the future and also what's the next best thing that we can do. I started learning about bioaccumulation and toxic load and how,
Hmm.
ingredients are deemed safe by the FDA as a blanket statement for this much amount in one specific product, but they're not taking into consideration that most women apply upwards of 30 self-care products every single day. So the toxic load of all of those ingredients are building up inside the body, and there's going to be a payment for that, right? Like we're going to have
Mm,
to pay the price for all the little tiny agreeances that we make in our products to say like, well, it's not that big of a deal, or it wouldn't be being sold if it wasn't dangerous. But we know that the cigarette industry is like one of the largest industries in the
yeah.
entire world. So that's not accurate. So I think it was a little bit like, how can we make a difference in our own family? And then also learning those ingredients, the benefits of them, and taking into consideration my own health journey through having autoimmune disease. So I knew after finding out that I had an autoimmune disease, which took a very long period of time, that I was going to need to treat my body in a very kind way because I was already predisposed to toxic load in ways that other people that maybe don't have a genetic predisposition may have to take so seriously at the time. And I wanted to make sure I was setting up my personal family as best as I could to make sure that they didn't have to suffer through things that I suffer through, while also looking for health in the entire process. So as I continued to learn more, I just continued to do the best that I could with the information that I had and make sure that my platform wasn't just about offering skincare, but was about offering knowledge and helping other people to
mm,
grow in that area as well.
absolutely. So what did it look like for you as you started pursuing holistic health? Like you said, so did you find out you had an autoimmune disorder and then you were like, something's got to change? Like what did it look like for you to walk that out?
I think I felt like a burden lifted, that there were other options besides pain medication, and I never wanted to rely on symptom control. I wanted to find the root cause of my problems, and I was watching other people as smear continued to take off when they would reach out and they would say, I'm using this product and, this body wash, this laundry detergent, but they all say free and clear or gentle or skin sensitive. And
Mm,
I would start to research those products and those ingredients and realize what they were actually doing together was creating like a total toxic storm in the body. And I was watching babies have their parents switch their products over to healthy, holistic
mm,
options, and the babies are getting better. So before my eyes, I'm watching what it looks like
yeah.
to choose products and ingredients that were making a baby go from
Yeah.
sick to well, while knowing that it wasn't the products themselves, it was what was happening in the internal body. So I started to go to naturopaths, I took supplements, I started to research
Mm,
um, food ingredients, effects on the internal body. What's the big deal with organic produce? What's the big deal with organic meat? What's the difference between grass fed versus organic? And I started to do like a deep dive on health in general and total wellness.
yeah.
And I was watching it help other people while experiencing it in my body at the same time. So it definitely was an eye-opening experience to see what we put in and on our bodies has a huge effect. how we treat our bodies, how much sunlight we're getting, or we're like living plants.
Mhm.
Like, are we sitting in the sun at all during the day? Or especially in a generation that is
Yeah.
obsessed with sunscreen. And don't hear me the wrong way. I'm all about it if there's no other option. But we don't even know what vitamin
Mm.
D does for the body anymore, and almost everybody is
Sure.
deficient in it. So just learning things like that and trying to figure out ways to treat my body kindly and
Yep.
set it up for success while also offering it options to heal was a game changer for me. So it's much slower than just taking medication to mask the symptoms, but my goal is to one day
Mhm.
be living like a a lifestyle
Right.
and longevity and feeling really well in my body and not just taking something to make it feel okay for the time being. So, a journey, a big journey.
For sure. How did your husband take it? Like, was he on board from the beginning? I know that that's always like a hot topic of conversations. Like, how do I convert my husband? But like,
So,
my husband has always been super supportive. So I'm curious as to, as you're walking alongside like actual health
yeah.
concerns, how did he take it?
Well, my husband's a character. If you've ever seen him on my Instagram, he has a good time. He is super goofy, super funny. And at the same time of him not being like the number one person to, like, jump on board and do it with me. He has always been like, "Go after it. I'm with you. Whatever you need, whatever it takes, we'll do it together." So he's been so supportive in the journey as far as, like, me going after holistic wellness and making shifts that were, like, non-negotiables in our family. I was like, "We're not doing fragrance. We're not doing chemicals. There's no bleach in the house. There's no we're cleaning our counters and our floors with vinegar." Like old school
Mhm.
European style, and he's always been on board with all of that, and I've actually seen, and he would admit this too, that watching me heal and maintain a healthier lifestyle and seeing it benefit my body has made him want to do it more. So he's been a huge support, and also I'm watching my silent changes affect him and make him want to do better as well. So
Yeah.
pray for him. He's coming around.
No, I feel that. My husband is definitely he was the one that was like, "Reina, why are you throwing these your all of your Bath and Body Works candles away?" I'm like, "'Cause they're the devil," you know? But
100%.
yeah, it's been a slow transition, but I think that's where a lot of women has just and other interviews and conversations I've had with people is like you don't want to like shove it down their throats as much as you want to just like silently lead and be like, "Hey, like what do you notice? Like how do you physically feel when
Yeah.
we're not inhaling Febreze every day? Like do you
Oh,
feel
for
better?
sure.
Oh, the headaches have
For
disappeared."
sure.
That's so wild.
He would be the first one to tell you that smear has changed his life on his own self. He's the number one user of smear. I've never seen someone go through it as fast as my husband does.
Yeah.
He uses, Alivia skincare body wash, which is owned by my good friend Kelly, who I love so much. And
Mhm.
he was all about us purchasing air doctors for every corner of the house. And will be the first one to tell you they've made a massive difference in his allergy attacks over the last year. So when it comes to like ideas, I'm usually the visionary of all of them. I do
Mhm.
my best bartering with him, like this is really going to help us so much, and here's the 10 reasons why. And he'll make fun of it, but he will be all on board, and then when he's benefited by it, he'll very reluctantly be like, okay, I can see why we did that now.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I love that. I'm here for that. So, how did he kind of take it, or what was it like for you to transition to all things tallow, and then now seeing tallow? I can't even get on TikTok, but like I know that it's blowing up over there. It's this newfound thing, and you're
yeah.
like, I've known about it. So, is it a trend? Is it something we should stick with? I want to hear it first from the tallow expert.
Well, I don't think it's a trend. I think that people are catching on to ancient methods that have worked for centuries. So we know that utilizing the entire animal was always the kindest way to receive an animal. We see it in all sorts of different cultures where the entire animal, entrails and all, are benefited and used in some variety of ways. Now people are on to liver, like why liver is
Hmm.
beneficial to eat and why you should
Right.
take it raw and things like that. So I don't think that it's anything that's new and exciting. I think it's just new to people because we've been told for so
Sure.
many years that chemicals are the best option. So people are catching on to an easier and more gentle and more beneficial way to live. And actually, I've talked about this before. I believe utilizing tallow is such a sustainable practice, and it is a sustainable practice if you look into it. Um, Not discarding parts of an animal are the kindest way to honor an entire animal's life.
Mm.
And what we know about suet fat, in specific tallow, tallow could be trimmings and things like that. The edges of your steak, could be rendered into make tallow. But the beneficial tallow comes from a specific part of the cow called the suet fat or the leaf fat around the kidneys. And that suet fat is rendered down into this incredibly beneficial ingredient. And it's not the same fat that you cook with, although you could use that tallow as well. But the purified form is suet. And the reason that specifically grass fed, grass finished suet is so beneficial is because it's loaded with a naturally occurring process called conjugated linoleic acid, which actually helps the skin cells to regenerate much faster. So you would use something like an antiseptic cream after you get burned, and that's what we're told
Sure.
to use. I would put tallow straight on a burn, and not only does it heal the skin, but it takes the sting away immediately. So these are not new found ideas. They're
Hmm.
very ancient, old, used practices that have been lost partially due to the 90s and how the 90s were and the 80s were all about like anti-fat, low-fat yogurt, low-fat
Hmm.
everything, 2 almonds
Yes.
a day max. Like our moms were almond moms. So
Yeah.
um, ingredient households, as we say. So I think that people not being scared of fat, and we're talking about fat again and why fat is beneficial for the body, why it's beneficial for the brain. The brain needs
Hmm.
proper amounts of fat to even function properly. So we're seeing people get hip to the idea that fat's not bad. And I think that the results are what speaks for themselves, and that's why people are so hip to it now. So I don't think it's going
Mm.
anywhere. I think we're just
Yeah.
new on the scene, and people are catching on. So
Right. So what would you say immediately to the girl that's like jumping on Instagram and is like, be fat on my face, you know?
oh gosh, yeah. Well, I would say don't be scared of it, because if you read the reason why it makes sense biologically, I think
Hmm.
people are more understanding and willing to receive that information. So I will tell you, I know a good amount of vegans that have decided to start using tallow. Mine
Oh, wow. Okay.
totally
Yeah.
mind-blowing. But when you actually do research on, how sustainable it is versus things like palm oil, which is destroying orangutan forests, and tallow is regenerative process because we're utilizing the processes for agricultural reasons, eating the meat, and then the tallow is either discarded or used. So the agricultural industry is going to continue, but we don't have to destroy entire forests to get palm oil. So it's an
Right.
interesting thought process when you look at it that way, and it's a much more mindful, sustainable process. So I think helping people understand that aspect, but the beef fat aspect makes sense because tallow specifically matches skin's sebum and lipid production in a way that's unlike any other oil or fat. So when you apply it to your skin's not like, what do I do with this crazy plant oil?
Sure.
I'm not a plant, but I am an animal. So when you apply beef fat, what it does is the skin looks at it and knows what to do with it and readily absorbs it. So it's actually biologically available in ways that plant oils are not. So you could use all the plant oils in the world and they're amazing and they
Hmm.
do amazing things. But if you want to get really close to what your skin already produces, tallow is for you.
Mm. Yeah, I'm so thankful for that explanation because we have been using smear for I think over a year now.
That's
And I
so cool.
actually put it on my husband first because he's in the army and I send it to him with training because he does not put sunscreen on. He's very fair and burns like a lobster. So he'll like come home with like his hat and like glasses
Oh
tan
my gosh.
from being outside all day. And I like literally sent him his moisturizer with when he left for training last month because I was like, bro, you just keep that on you with you. I know you're gonna get burned. your skin needs the extra help. So my husband will attest to smear for our family. But yeah, totally agree. We've used it on burns when we went to the beach this summer. I've put it on my son when we're in the mass chaos toddler stage. So he's like diving into the ground head first. Not really, but we use it for
True.
all of our cuts and scrapes. So it's been really cool to like watch your story unfold and then use it for our family and like see the healing take place firsthand.
It seems to be that that's the way that people absorb the information the best way possible is you just kind of have to see it for yourself. And once you start to use it and you're the last person to get on board and you're like, "Oh no, I burnt my hand." And then in the kitchen you're like, "I guess," and you put it on and then it changes your experience with burns. There's no blisters and then it gets you thinking. So, seeing is believing, that's for sure.
For sure. I kind of want to circle back to the faith aspect, which we touched on in the beginning, but how has holding on to your faith played a role in this process?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, just from the very beginning of Smear, we have always, this is a little bit behind the scenes, we have always worked off of profit. We have no debt in our company whatsoever. Um, and the reason I think that that is so prevalent is because we've always just done the next thing, which requires a lot of faith. So
Yeah.
to make sure, we can do the next big step. It's always just based upon what we have. And I have utilized that method since the beginning because I felt like God wasn't gonna he wasn't gonna ask us to do something that was gonna be so crazy. He was gonna give us the next little piece and ask us just to be faithful. So we've
Mhm.
always just been faithful with the little bit that we have as the next step. And I think that that has played such a massive role because we have such a dependency on God as business owners, and knowing and feeling the weight, like the weightiness that people are counting on us. They use us like medical products, like
Right. Yeah.
prescriptions. We oftentimes are taking the place of prescription drugs for people, especially people suffering through topical steroid withdrawal or
Mhm.
um, psoriasis or eczema and things like that, where it's beyond just a healthy skincare option. It is skin health to people. So understanding the weight that we have, like that weightiness of what we're doing, it really means something and it matters. And also always just taking the next step to be faithful to God and not trying to compete with other people around us. So something I've
Mm.
done from the beginning is not follow any other tallow companies. I support them and there's plenty of room at the table for all of them to come up. I would be a total fool if I felt that I could service an entire world's population
Right.
with tallow. I don't have that kind of complex. So,
Mhm.
um, I've just always been faithful to what God is asking me to do and not paying attention to what everyone else is doing. So I can just serve the lane that God has given me and the people God has given me at that time to steward. So it feels like a ministry to me because in my
Mhm.
heart it is. I'm hoping
Yeah.
to be faithful with all the little things that God has given me. And when He entrusts us with more and more, I want to be faithful to that and not ask for more than He's already given.
Definitely. And that's like a whole word for I think women in business right now in general is like don't like we're not competition. And I was even talking to someone yesterday as she was sharing just the way that people have been interacting with her stories. And one of the things my dad had always told me growing up was like don't confuse my pride or like excitement for something as competition. And I think that's so helpful to hold on to within like the holistic wellness space for whatever people are offering or, whatever their business is like we all have a seat at the table. If it does really well to guard your heart and not following people that run in your same lane, do so.
Mm,
Because ultimately, the only thing that that's going to drive is comparison, and the enemy is really good at his job.
definitely.
So, I would like to, if you're open to it, I would love to just share a little bit about your daughter's story. It was so cool. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but it was just like so cool to like see it unfold for you guys through social media. And as you just like explained what that meant for you guys and how that alone has like proved the Lord's faithfulness over and over again. So I would just love if you'd be open to sharing that with our community.
Okay, so I will cry. So just
Go for it. Me too. It's all right.
sorry if crying gives you the ick. Um, okay, so basically, I was diagnosed with a prolactinoma brain tumor a few years ago, actually the week of my birthday, which was a terrible birthday present. But
Mm-hmm.
I had had amenorrhea for over 2.5 years, so I did not have a menstrual
Wow.
cycle at all. It just never came back. And I had, we had been trying to get pregnant. So the confusion was always, well, you miss your period and then you find out you're pregnant. So I just was
Right.
constantly wondering if I was pregnant all the time.
Mm.
So I had been, on this journey, just like in kindness towards God, like, okay, well, when the time comes, the time comes. Like, I'm open to a baby, that. I wasn't like striving to get pregnant, but I was very open. I wanted a baby. And that was all fun and games until you just don't get pregnant. And then you have to really sit down and deal with that with the
Yeah.
Lord. So I had I had a lot of people praying for me. People would have dreams about us having a baby girl. People would, my husband was in
Mm.
ministry and you'd be traveling and someone would bump into him and be like, oh, how are your kids? And he'd be like, oh, no, I have just a son. And they'd be like, no, I swear you have a daughter. And he was like, no,
I have
I
chills.
just have my
Yeah.
son. And it would be like people were actually like confused because they like imagined there was a little girl with us this whole time. And so we had just stayed faithful to what God was showing us and kept that to like keep the flame burning in our hearts of hope. Like we were like, okay, hope is medicine. So if I can just keep hope in my heart,
Mm.
it'll keep my heart from getting sick and sick with disappointment and sick with despair. And also practicing gratitude through this whole process was a game changer. Just saying to God, I'm so thankful for everything that I have. And if this is what you have for me and there is no other baby, I trust you. I trust that you know what is best for me. I want to give you as my heart's sacrifice all that I can give you here on earth before I meet you in heaven.
Mm.
And if a sacrifice that I can give you is that I so badly want another baby, but I won't have one, I give that to you. And I tell you, I
Mm.
love you. I love you even in spite of all of that. I love you. And to keep him as first thing in my heart. So that was super important to me through the process. So when I found out I had a prolactinoma tumor, part of that process is that it is very, very difficult to get pregnant because your body thinks that it is pregnant already. It's secreting high levels of prolactin, which is your pregnancy hormone. It's your breastfeeding hormone. A lot of people with prolactinomas will lactate even if they're not pregnant and women, which is
Mm.
very interesting. And so through this process, I had to come to the understanding that it was going to be difficult to get pregnant. And then one day we drove to a specialist and had all of our hope and faith wrapped up in this specialist. Like, this is going to be the answer, or they're going to do surgery, they're going to take the tumor out, and everything's going to be okay. And we get there, and the
Yeah.
specialist says to me, um, why is it that you want the tumor removed? And I was like, well, it's making me terribly sick. Like, can't function, nosebleeds all the time, horrific migraines. I couldn't get out of bed. I was completely exhausted, very, very ill in my body. Um, couldn't
Mm-hmm.
remember things. I was losing peripheral vision in my right eye. Now, this tumor is a benign tumor, so it wasn't secreting cancer. It was secreting high levels of hormones, which we all
Yeah.
know high levels of hormones or insufficient hormones will make you very sick. So the doctor said to me, is it that you want to get pregnant? And I said, well, I would love to get pregnant. I would love to give my son a sibling. We would love to grow our family.
Yeah.
And he just very clear as day said to me, well, it might be time to start thinking about other options like removing your eggs, freezing them, thinking about surrogacy, because your body will very likely never get pregnant. You're going to be infertile. And I felt like someone punched me in the gut because I just went there to fix it all and then found out that he wasn't going to fix anything. There wasn't anything to fix. The tumor can possibly regrow, which is why they didn't want to do surgery on me. It will just keep coming back, they believe. Um, And then
Yeah.
I left being told I would never have another baby. And I grieved the whole 2-hour ride home in the car. I cried.
Yeah.
There's a video that I posted, some pieces of my story. I felt really compelled to video journal what I was going through, thinking I would never share it really anywhere publicly. It was so intimate. Um, and then I
Yeah.
felt pressed by the Lord to share our story while we were walking through it. So I did. And when I found out I was pregnant, which is just a crazy God story. There's a video about that too, which is really special. I had
Mm-hmm.
videotaped myself getting negative tests for years. And then in the video where I find out I'm pregnant, I'm saying, and of course I'm not pregnant. And as soon as I flip it over is when I see that I'm pregnant and was like, hold on a second. So, the long story of all of that short is that when I found out I was pregnant, it took me a couple weeks to realize that I was 6 weeks pregnant, 7 weeks after my doctor's appointment. So I got pregnant the week that the doctors told me I would be infertile for the rest of my life.
Wow. Dang. Won't he do it?
He will, and he did. And I held on to this little moment. Something cool about my daughter's name. Her name is Golden. Um, and she's named after Golden Hour, which is super hippy dippy, I know, but I had been seeing the name Golden for years, and every time I saw the name, I would screenshot it, take a picture of it, circle it,
Yeah.
take a picture of something in the grocery store, golden egg noodles. It didn't matter because the name Golden was everywhere to me, but it got really significantly it started to significantly build my faith after I had an encounter with the Lord in my kitchen in the middle of the whole infertility journey where
Mm-hmm.
um, I had my eyes closed and was listening to this song called Golden Hour that I had never heard before by Casey Musgraves. And don't listen to
Mm.
country music, so it's not really in my lane. And it popped up and I was listening to the words and I started weeping, crying. And as my eyes are closed and I'm weeping, I feel and see this little girl in a yellow dress, about 7 years old, spinning in circles, kind of in slow motion, like a movie in my kitchen of us dancing and singing this song together. And it messed me up in the most beautiful way
Yeah.
because I felt like God gave me a small piece of what it felt like to have her there so I didn't lose hope. And when she left in that vision in my kitchen, I felt this deep ache for my baby that I knew was out there
Mm.
somewhere and she wasn't with me yet. And so it made the process of waiting and believing and being filled with hope so much easier because I knew in my knower that there was a baby somewhere out there for me in whatever way it would come. I didn't know if it would come through adoption. I didn't know if God would give us a baby naturally. We ended up conceiving naturally, which is
Yeah.
another big crazy part of the story, which is not supposed to happen with the prolactinoma. Um, so her name is Golden Hour because
Mm.
my most special times with the Lord were sitting in a room with golden hour on the walls shining,
Mm-hmm.
those like soft, beautiful, warm lights. And the way that it made me feel with the Lord was just so precious and romantic and cozy with him, like that he was so tender to come to me in that way. So when we found out we were pregnant, we just knew in our guts that it was a girl, and it was.
Yeah.
And to be able to look at her and call her golden and know that the Lord had spoke her to me so long ago is just the craziest feeling.
Yeah. Wow. What a wow. It's just, yeah. I love hearing God's stories just because it like reminds us, like, even in the hard and even in like the ache, which is like I knew getting on this call today the Lord was going to have something, because I've known parts of your story just following along for the past year, but we actually lost a close family friend of ours a couple days ago, and I've been like wrestling with grief in a new way. So I don't know, I just like felt something from the Lord, and for you to say like through the midst of it hope is medicine, and like through everything else, like the Lord is still faithful. That was just exactly what I needed to hear.
I'm so
So
glad.
wow, that is just so cool to hear of the Lord's goodness and faithfulness, even if you're not in a season of believing yourself. and then seeing it manifested like when the Lord is ready and in his timing. So, wow, what does it look like for you to like have that, see your daughter, like you are walking in the beauty of the Lord's answered prayer? Like, how do you remain rooted in that? Because in our humanness, in our flesh, it's like, okay, Lord, when's the next best thing? Which sounds like really bad sometimes, but even in the midst of an answered prayer, I catch myself at times being like, okay, Lord, like what's next? Like, or waiting for the shoe to drop.
Mhm.
So, how do you remain grounded and maybe just in that place of like fighting off the enemy as he tries to steal your joy?
Yeah, I've always been of the perspective that the mountains looked better from the valley. I would much rather have a small little cottage at the base of a in a valley looking up at
Mm,
the mountains than from the mountains looking down. And I think that's so much like faith with the Lord is that when we keep a picture of how big God truly is and how majestic he is and how holy he is, that the perspective is much more purified, that we're not always looking for some big spectacle or big show. And something that I could share with you that helped me in the process was, of course, like always thinking like, how could this get better? Or what will God do to
mm-hmm.
answer this prayer? Or, um, in our journey, we've had some crazy, crazy faith building stories that I could tell you. Someone giving us a car, someone paying for our rent,
Yeah.
someone erasing debt for us and crazy things like that. But I will tell you the small moments of being reminded of God's goodness when I was feeling weary in my heart are so much bigger to me now than back then. Um, because faith is like a muscle. So we've
Mm-hmm.
got to constantly be working it out and strengthening it and helping it to grow and reminding ourselves with our own stories, like God, how God has been faithful to us. So just this past week, I've entered into a health struggle with my body again. And my health is suffering right now, and we're going to different doctors, and I'm doing homeopathics and going to holistic naturopaths and things like that to try to figure out what's going on, help support my body the best way I know how.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easy to go backwards and think, not again,
Right.
and think like, I thought we were past this. I thought, I was going to be healed in this way for how I thought it would look. And something that John and I have done since the day we met is take pictures of really embarrassing moments where we just know how things are going to get better. So like when our cars got repossessed many years ago and we went to the place where the repossession took place to hand them our keys because we wanted to do the right thing. It's really hard to get rid of a car you can't pay for, by the way, in case you ever wanted to know that. And we knew we couldn't afford it and just couldn't figure out how to get it off of our hands. So our car got repossessed and we took a picture holding the keys outside, wondering like, how will this ever get better? Or when our
Yeah.
next car broke down, or when my husband got cancer last year, we took a picture outside of the hospital where he had been diagnosed. And we always do that because we know that God is so faithful and he is so kind, and that somehow he will always make things work out for the good
Mm,
of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. So we know we're called according to his purposes and we love him. So, however God makes it right, he will. It might not come the way that I think it should, but I need to be constantly reminded of his kindness towards us. So, when John got healed, we had that picture to look at and to think. We were so full of faith in that moment that everything was going to work out the way that God had best intended for us. And so this past week when I struggled with my health again, I thought to myself, I need to flex that faith muscle and be reminded of all God has done. So I posted all of the videos that we had collected of John's cancer journey, finding out we were infertile, of the prolactinoma tumor, having Golden's birth story is on there. And all of these videos, I needed to see them and I needed
yeah.
to be reminded of how good God has been to us. So I think it's twofold. I think it's constant reminders, practicing gratitude, and knowing that we serve a God who truly loves us and who will never forsake us. So staying connected to his heart through all of it is so massive to me.
Mm. Yes, definitely the reminder I needed for my own heart, and I'm
Ugh,
sure
I needed it
are
too, so I'm glad you
yes.
asked.
Yes. So, Britt, where can our community get plugged in with you? I'll link all things smear, but where can we get connected with you on social media, your website, all of that?
Yeah, so you can follow us at Smear by Brit. Our website is smearnatural.com. We're at Smear by Brit on TikTok as well if you want to see motherhood and mom stuff. I love to talk about birth. It's like a weird thing that my group of friends has. Like, I'll never meet someone at a coffee shop and be like, so what you do for fun? If you're holding a baby, I'm going to ask you to tell me every traumatic detail of your birth story, and we're going to leave friends. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
love
talking
that.
all things birth, all things holistic health, all things holistic wellness. You can always shoot me a DM. You can email us at smearnatural@gmail.com if you have any questions. We're happy to help you in any way that we can to support you on your holistic health journey.
Perfect. Well, now I'm super curious about how you're going to answer our closing question because this was honestly a beautiful conversation that I had a feeling the Lord was like, no, like you need to have this conversation today. So, if you could provide any wisdom to your younger self or for our community that is listening, what would you share?
uh, Certainly gonna cry. What would I say to my younger self? I would say to be faithful with every single thing God has given you, not so that He gives you more, but so that you can offer to Him your fullest heart and your best offering to Him of stewardship. And I would also say to, um, I think this is really important because for someone like me that has always been a serial entrepreneur and a big dreamer, I often allowed negativity and voices to remind me of what I was never going to be able to accomplish. I come from not much. My family always struggled growing up and has worked so very hard. So there was no perspectives for us to do well in life or to have a business. Nobody was jumping off, to give us money. So I would say to anyone else out there who's also a dreamer and a visionary to be faithful in every single thing that God has given you and to start somewhere. Don't wait for something to open up. Don't wait for the right circumstances. Just take that little dream in your heart and do the next thing that you need to do to see that it comes to fruition and be faithful with every step that you have. And never forget that everything you have is because of the kindness of God. As good as we are in all
Mm,
of our best works and our best efforts, we could never, ever manifest, our generation loves to say, we can never
mm-hmm.
manifest these good things that God has given us. It's all because of the kindness of God. And because of that, it takes the weight off of stewarding things as well. Everything we have is given by God. So God is given and God will maintain and God will keep. And all we have to do is continue to offer Him our full heart and our full devotion along the way.
Oh, what a gift of a conversation, Britt. This has been so beautiful, much needed. And honestly, I'm just like in awe of your story and so thankful for your faithfulness in sharing it.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a blessing to me as well. I needed this faith flex in my muscles too. The Lord reminded me of His goodness today.
Yeah, we both needed the workout. So thank you so much, Britt. And I will link all things smear. Please go buy them, guys. I'm telling you, it is life changing. I've seen the testimonials on Instagram. We've watched it unfold in our own family. And it's honestly just an honor to walk alongside you and your family as you guys continue to grow.
Thank you so much for all of your support. It means the world to us.
Of course. Well, we will catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you for listening, friend. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you don't want to miss any wisdom or encouragement, be sure to subscribe to the show. And don't forget to rate and review. Your feedback means so much and helps our community grow. If you're looking for more wellness wisdom and free resources, head over to livingwiselywell.com or get connected with me on Instagram at wiselywell. And if you're looking for a break from the hurried health lifestyle, check out my Return to Rest resource for tangible ways to slow down and finally find rest.